What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker here on Unique Access, and today for Best Albums, we have the privilege of being joined by DJ EFN.
What up?
Thank you for coming through, sir.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Now, EFN, of course, as you guys know, has a wide, varied history, very significant factor in the game, and he definitely loves to represent Miami. So for his best album, he's picking the Two Live Crew's Two Live Is What We Are album.
Yep.
Now, EFN, this came out in 1986, so in 85, we had people like Dane with Nightmares. We had Dougie Fresh and the Get Fresh crew with The Show and Lottie Dottie. 86, we had Ice-T. You know, Schoolie D was coming out. We're getting Eric B. and Rakim were coming out.
Right.
But then we have the Two Live Crew also coming out. Two Live Is What We Are. So you're in Miami at the time. What was going on in Miami with rap before you bought this album?
Well, I'm 11 years old, so I couldn't probably tell you. Right, at the time.
Now.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely not now. I'd be an ill white-bearded 11-year-old right now. But so I couldn't really probably speak on exactly what was going on because I'm a kid. I could only see through kid eyes at the time. But as a kid, we're just, you know, and I'm trying to think about how did I even start to hear Two Live Crew and some of this stuff? You know, like, do you remember, like, when you were 11, how you were getting a lot of this music?
It was through my friends because I was just getting into rap. I started when I was 10. My friend Tom Early, I always shout him out, but he had given me this tape. Dane Nightmares was on it, Roxanne, UTFO, all these records. I Need a Beat, LL. That's what got me to fall in love with rap.
Right.
So from there, I started asking everyone I knew that listened to rap, yo, what you got? So I could either listen to it, copy it off them, or knew what to look for at the record store.
Right. Well, it's definitely the boombox era for sure.
Yeah.
So I remember, you know, my friends, we would have the boombox and pop in a tape, and we would go to the record store, and rap had a little section. Yeah. So you would go to that section all the time, hoping to see something new.
Right.
It wasn't about who you like. If you knew the artist, it was just what was the new tape that was in that section, and you were gonna try to get it. And back then, you know, if you didn't have money, you jacked it. Or if I went to buy it, like Two Live Crew, I couldn't buy it because they weren't selling it to kids. So I had to.
It's a different era.
I had to convince my mom to go and buy it for me. So my mom, this Cuban lady with a Spanish accent, she goes and asks for Two Live Crew, and the guy at the counter's like, "This is what you want," you know. And he sold it to her, and then I go, I take it back home, and I'm playing it out my room, and she's just hearing like all this crazy shit coming out my room, you know, like We Want Some Pussy and all this stuff.
And we're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
But like for you as a kid in Miami, the cover is representing the city a lot because Marquise got the jacket on.
Right.
They're definitely wearing the Hurricanes and representing Miami. So for you, rap is very regional and very much about bigging up the hometown. Did that mean something extra to you or not really?
Nah, not really. I was getting, you know, rap music from all different, you know, regions in my mind. Like, to me, that's why I try to tell people, like, there was no difference to me from a Two Live Crew and a Run DMC, you know, or these different artists at the time. To me, it was all the same thing. You know, Gucci Crew, even we was listening to, MC Shy D. I mean, we was listening to all this stuff, and it wasn't where they were from. It was just the music.
That's how I was from, but I was from Maryland, so we didn't have a real, other than shout out Go-Go, of course. Now, you mentioned We Want Some Pussy. That's one of the big songs on the album. So at this point, Two Live Crew was pioneering this whole thing with Too Short, of course.
Right.
But they were really the forerunners of this type of style with Too Short, but they did it obviously in a much more danceable way. Right. So for you, what was it like hearing, as an 11-year-old, hearing a song called We Want Some Pussy?
I mean, it was shocking. You know, like, that, as a kid, you gravitate towards something you're not supposed to, you know, have or hear. And that's what Two Live was. And now, in retrospect, understanding that they were from the city, and we knew it, but obviously that was being pushed more locally, so we were hearing it a lot. We would go to the skating ring, and we would hear it. Right. And like I said, it was the boombox era. The cars with the systems are driving by, and you're hearing it. It was just everywhere in Miami at the time. And I remember that cassette tape that I bought is actually, I think, one of the first prints. And I told Luke, when we had him on Drink Champs, one of the first prints that they created, because it has like it's a white label inside, like nothing in the inside, just the cover, and it's a white cassette tape. And that picture, I remember that cover, it's just so iconic. It's in front of the Pac Jam, which is like a legendary club in Miami that Luke used to do, and that club was legendary. So it was just crazy, man, just thinking back at that era and thinking about the music. And then with We Want Some Pussy, and also throughout the rest of the record, they were really big as rap much later, I think, got from Two Live Crew, but they had a lot of the chants going on. Right. You know, and the call and response, like Go-Go, but they had that a lot too. Which Luke evolved even more with being his own artist, Yeah, Uncle Luke, once he was doing that too. But
when you were later seeing that interaction in the clubs with other Two Live Crew records and when they would perform these records, what did you notice that gave an extra dimension to the performances?
I mean, again, to me, it wasn't that it was just them doing it. I felt like at that time that was something, you know, that artists were doing on the stage. It was, you know, just, you know, make some noise, you know, and you just, that was just something that was a part of artistry and performance, live performance. And I felt that if artists didn't do that, they weren't really doing a good job at their live show.
Okay. So EFN also, they had this song, Get It Girl, which was another song, obviously, getting it what Two Live Crew does. But for you, what do you remember that made that song stand out?
It was the video, and if I'm not wrong, it was the video where the girl in the biker shorts is on the treadmill.
Okay.
I think I'm right about that video, but and you know I'm a young man, 11 years old kid, about to, you know, hit puberty, and you seeing these imageries, like these videos were everything for us, you know.
I remember.
Yeah. So yeah, that's you know, and I mean, look, and the production was dope. Like Get It Girl, that's a dope ass beat.
Well, I think too, Mr. Mixx. He had Mr. Mix's On The Mixx, which we'll talk about next. But I think people really don't appreciate and understand the quality of the music that he made. And people would get distracted by the profanity or the sex stuff. But, like, the music was incredible.
Incredible.
And you know, he worked with, of course, Poison Clan as well. A lot of the other stuff that Luke had put out. And then, like, Frost and all these other people making, like, incredible beats. So for you as a little kid, what stood out about the production and what made it so good to you? It spoke to me. It was just dope music. Again, like I'm a little kid, so I'm not looking at anything super technical or picking it apart, but it's just what just sounded really good to me, and what are me and my friends gonna listen to and have in the boombox, and just those beats were just really, really dope. And could you tell with your boombox, because I know there was a wide range of even back then, like was the bass different with listening to Two Live? Oh yeah, and that's again later on in life and looking back on things, I'm starting to see what made, you know, the Two Live sound, what made it Miami, and how it evolved into like Miami bass music and all this stuff. And it was the 808s, the bass and all that stuff. You know, we had if you remember DJ Magic Mike from Florida, so like Orlando and all the bass music, and you know that's where that bass stuff started coming out. And Two Live is like the beginning of all that, and just using a lot of that you know instrumentation and the bass music in there. Okay. And then they had to throw the D on there as well, getting back to the sex side. Crazy. So that one, you know, they had an interesting mix of focusing on the women, but then the dudes too, or like saying what they wanted to do. So as a little kid, beyond the shock value, like, did you really understand what they were saying? Oh, yeah. Did it all make sense to you? Yeah, you know, and I'm growing, like, my father isn't around at this time in my life. Okay. So this is where, like, kind of like hip-hop, rap music is, in a sense, taking the place of teaching me some of these things that you know maybe the male you know might have been doing, you know, like, you know, you got your friends, school, but it's the music that's like informing all of us at the time. And this is kind of where my passion of hip hop came from. Like I felt like it was like a surrogate father to me in a sense. And yeah, it's teaching me the birds and the bees basically through Two Live Crew, you know? Right. Except in a little more extreme manner. Right. But you know, that's where good parenting comes in to balance it out a little bit, you know? My mom was in there, you know, trying to balance it out for me. So did you and your friends, because of this and like maybe Freaky Tales with Too Short, did you guys like talk about this stuff? Because Miami has that reputation of being like, oh. Right, like the sex city? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, being a little kid, I don't feel like that's all we were talking about, or it drove us into this one direction. You know, maybe when you got older and you were going to the strip clubs, then you're like, oh, okay, I'm in Miami. Like, this is my home is crazy. But nah, to me, it was all a part of this pot of just great music that was coming out at the time. And when I look back and people try to talk about, like, when they talk down about whether it be the South or Miami specifically, like, I'm like, if you listen to Two Live and anything that was coming out around that time, to me, it was all on par. Like, even lyrically, it's just the subject matter was different. Right. No, I agree, because Shy D, of course, and then later Poison Clan, they showed, you know, different sides of what Miami was doing very early on. And I think, like with Mr. Mixx not getting his production credit, I think we lose sight of Luke, because Luke even shout out Stinky Dink, because he had signed a guy from D.C. named Stinky Dink. And it was just all these different things that Luke was doing that was ahead of the time. Yeah. The independent movement also. Independent ahead of the time, sonically ahead of the time, and then subject matter, and then later, of course, fighting the government, freedom of speech. The parental advisory thing, because So, and I talk about some of that in my book, The History of Gangster Rap, but I also had my first book I ever did was called The History of Rap and Hip Hop. It was an elementary school book or middle school book. And, I wrote about that extensively because it's important for kids to understand and people in general, but that book's targeted to middle school, but just to show like these albums were illegal. And like people couldn't buy them, and like record store owners were getting arrested. And
it's like prohibition on music.
Yeah. It was a crazy thing. And Luke really pushed that envelope and got incarcerated for it. As you know, they would get arrested performing.
Who was it? C. Delora Tucker?
She was one of the forerunners of that. Tipper Gore, C. Dolores Tucker, Reverend Calvin Butts. There's a lot of people that were really anti-rap. Lynn Chaney's another one later on in the game. But all that to be said, the album is amazing. So now looking back, what do you think is the legacy of Two Live Crew's Two Live Is What We Are?
Oh man, I just think it shaped a region. Like it gave Miami a certain identity and a pride, because I think that all of us in Miami, no matter what we think our musical influences are, if we're doing hip hop, rap music, we're standing on the backs of what Two Live and Luke were doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, there it is, y'all. Best albums, man. Unique access. We got DJ EFN. Make sure if you don't know the Two Live Crew's Two Live Is What We Are, make sure to check it out. Listen to that.
Yep.
I'm Soren Baker, DJ EFN. Thank you.
In the beginning, hip-hop was ruled by the East Coast. Then the West Coast rose to prominence, thanks to gangster rap.
Straight out of Compton, crazy motherfucker named Ice Cube.
Hip-hop changed the world. Gangster rap changed the narrative.
I'm representing for the gangsters all across the world.
And then changed the world again.
Cause I'll come and take your life away.
The history of gangster rap features unheard stories, unseen photos and documents, all with exclusive interviews from the founders and players who shaped gangster rap.
I think a real gangster rapper has to scare you a little bit.
The history of gangster rap, written by veteran rap journalist Soren Baker. In stores now.
Yo, what up? This is DJ Quick. Be sure to pick up my homeboy Soren Baker's book, The History of Gangster Rap, if you really want to know what we do.